What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Good morning. Yes, Saturday, January 7th, and welcome back to another edition of the Transfer View. Yes, 7 days, a week in to the January window opening here. And more transfer news to get into, a little bit more to talk about this morning. Memphis Depay, the latest name, linked with a possible January move to Manchester United. A January return to Manchester United, must be said as well. Actually saying he's actually eager on a return to Old Trafford. He's eager on a return to United. So we're going to be talking about that. Is it good? Is it bad? Weighing up the pros, the cons, letting you know, trying to get your opinion on it as well. You know, these solo shows are trying to make them as interactive as possible, so we'll get your comments up on the screen when it comes to that. Marcus Thuram got a bit of an update when it comes to that, possibly being a bit unlikely for a move in January, although, as previously reported, it's once again been backed up by Christian Falk that he would actually turn down a move to Newcastle over moving to Manchester United, so a bit of an update on that. Felix, the deal possibly stalling. Did it even start anyway? We're going to be talking about the loan fee once again, saying it's too high, and unless this loan fee can be pulled down, it doesn't look like much is going to happen when it comes to that. And of course, Manchester United win again. We're going to be talking about Manchester United's 3-1 victory in the FA Cup third round last night against Everton at Old Trafford. Not too much though, because Match Day Reloaded will be coming up later today, as always, guys. Around 2 p.m. it will be dropping. We're going to get reactions from Felix, KG, Marcel, some player ratings. Going to be discussing that Roy Keane mustache as well. I'm still in a little bit of shock right now. It must be said, a little bit of shock when it comes to that as well. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. Remember, you can join the UV Members Club too. Links in the video description. So also the pinned comment in the live chat. You get your badges, your emojis, which there are plenty right now. There's the very, very popular. I mean, you can let me know, the members in the chat, what you think is your favourite emoji, but at the same time, I think Boy Kev is really starting to run away with things. I think Boy Kev emoji is quickly becoming a favourite of the UV community. Last night during the match view, Boy Kevs were flying around all over the place. So you can let me know your favourite emoji. But yes, you do get your emojis, your priority chat as well. Get some of your chats up in the screen in just a second. And your exclusive members-only content too, such as UV Raw. All the back catalogue of episodes are there. New episodes coming soon. The infamous Marcel De Gea debate is on the way. I've heard very, very good things. So let's see what you guys are saying. Shafi says, morning, Owen. Have a good one. Good morning to yourself. Hope you're having a good one as well. Dilvis got the hopium and the crackhead in there too. Kristen with the red and yellow cards. I think they were a solid addition, the red and yellow cards, especially in those more debating shows, in those sort of shows where you can get a bit of a controversial opinion put out there. The community will let you know, is it a bookable offence or is it straight red? You know, sin bin sometimes gets utilised, sometimes it doesn't, but the yellow and red cards, it's early. Yellow and red cards is the perfect way for that. Callum's got the Owen emoji. Yes, unfortunately, there is an Owen emoji of when I was singing. I don't even know what player I was singing it for in the summer for that one. Who was it? Kevin Trapp. That was it. I was singing Elvis. That's why I had the sunglasses on. You forget sometimes. You forget what your United View. Honestly. Well, look, let's get straight into some transfer news. That's what you've all come here for. Memphis Depay. Let's talk about Memphis Depay. And again, we've got a type, certainly, of player that we're looking for in January. We know we're looking for a striker. We know we're looking for someone that can play in the number 9 position. But we're also looking for someone that we can get on the cheap because we don't have any money. So what Manchester United are doing is they're searching for these players that have around 6 months left on their contract to see, can we get them for pennies on the pound? Can we get them for a much reduced fee? Can we bring them in? It's a stopgap. It's a short-term option. Sometimes United are even exploring loans. In the case of someone like Jack Butland, of course, that's between the sticks, a goalkeeper. But exploring a loan whereby they've got 6 months left on their deal, but we'll get him to the end of the season. We don't even have any commitment that he's going to be around for the next 12 to 18 months. Memphis Depay fits into that category because he does have 6 months left on his contract, and he is someone that can play as a number 9. He has history with the club. He's currently at Barca, and he's keen to leave. A report from Sport in Spain claims Barcelona striker Memphis Depay is keen on a return to Old Trafford 5.5 years after his exit from the club. However, it says his employees would rather reap a sum of money for his exit than facilitate a loan spell with his contract expiring at the end of the season. A bit like I just said, Barcelona would feel, and I suppose justifiably so, well, if he's going to go in January, we still want to get some money. Not a lot, because his contract is expiring. And frankly, Barca, they need the money. I don't know if you've seen. It feels like every couple of months we hear this story. We heard it so many times in the summer about their financial situation. And I had I haven't forgotten. I had these Barcelona fans in the chat at the time. You don't know what you're talking about. We've pulled financial lever number 775. We're fine. Don't you worry about Barcelona. We signed all these players. We're doing great. Well, they went out of the Champions League and suddenly it went, have you got any more levers? Because they need more levers to try and find this financial solution. And I know Memphis Depay is not going to solve their financial problems, but he would certainly ease that burden, wouldn't he? Because they could get a small transfer fee, let's say a light 5 million. He could reduce wages as well. I don't know what wages he's on, but you would think it's probably relatively high too. They wanted to get rid of him in the summer because of that. So they would want some kind of financial compensation. They wouldn't just want a loan. And from a United perspective, I mean, it's a bit like the João Felix one, isn't it? I suppose they could loan him till the end of the season when his contract's expiring and United could pay his full wages and pay a loan fee. But the loan fee would probably be enough to buy him in the first place, right? So it certainly is interesting nevertheless. United are to explore the loan market for a striker. The report says no offer, though, has been made for Memphis. As I mentioned, a follow-up report did say that he was keen on a return to United this month. Obviously, he's dropped down the pecking order at the Camp Nou, while his old team are needing a striker to join the ranks. On his previous spell in Manchester, he scored 7 goals in 53 appearances, and his previous spell did not really light up the imagination. If anything, I saw even when I was setting up this morning, when I was preparing this morning, a lot of people saying, no, we don't want him back, we don't need him back. I go back and forth on this one a lot, and you can feel free to put the flip-flop emojis in the chat because I am flip-flopping a little bit on this one. Because I'm not sure. I think out of all of the options available, and again, available is a very loaded word there, isn't it? Because who is actually available? Yeah, we're going to talk about Marcus Turram in a bit later on, but what price is he going to be available for? He's got 6 months left. I don't think Memphis Depay would be the worst choice. I don't think he'd be the worst choice. I think that there is some, not a lot, but I do think there is some element of forward planning you could do with that. My concern with some of these other names we've been linked to recently, like Olivier Giroud, is I say, well, anyone we bring in, I know we're exploring the loan market, but in a case of Memphis Depay or Marcus Thuram or Olivier Giroud, there's 6 months left on their contract. If they sign for United on a permanent deal, they will not sign to the end of the season. They won't, because they'll want some element of stability. They're going to United. They'd want probably most likely an 18-month contract minimum. They'd say, I want a deal to the end of next season, or possibly even longer than that in the case of Memphis Depay. Now, if we're going to do that, Marcus Thuram's a good option. How old is he? 26, 27, I think, around that age. Olivier Giroud, you would say, to the end of next season, I don't know about that. Memphis, in the summer, we'd go for a striker anyway. We are going to go for a striker in the summer. Hopefully, the ownership situation is resolved and finished by that point. Hopefully, we've got new owners, we've got new people in place, and we've got this strategy of, we've certainly got a significant amount of money to spend on the positions that we need to spend on. Memphis Depay next season, in that new look Manchester United, he can be an option. And I think that's, my way that I'm kind of leaning towards this. If we got him in now, he would be an option. He wouldn't play every game. He wouldn't come in and be a starter. But at the same time, we still do have a lot of games. As of right now, as we're live right now, Saturday, January 7th, we're still in for cup competitions. How long that will last, we don't know. We've got Charlton on Tuesday. We've got Barcelona soon in the Europa League. We're through to the next round of the FA Cup. There's still plenty of rounds to go. So we've got plenty of rounds to play and plenty of cup competitions and games to play. And let's face it, Anthony Martial, he went off again last night around 70 minutes, not because he was injured, but because Eric Ten Hag's realising, he said in his press conference he can play 90 minutes, and I'm sure that Martial can, but the risk as the game goes on just gets higher and higher and higher with Martial, and Ten Hag realises he can't afford to have what happened to Martial happen earlier on in the season. He can't afford that to happen again. Martial pick up a knock and he's out for 2 to 3 weeks. Martial pick up a knock, he's out for 4 weeks. Martial pick up a knock, he's out for 6 weeks. Martial pick up a knock, he's out for a couple of months. And we know that's going to happen eventually. And what he doesn't want to do at this point is have a player like Marcus Rashford, who is in what feels like the form of his life. I think he said in his interview with ITV after the game last night, he said, I think it's the best goal-scoring form I've ever been in. And what you don't want to do when someone's playing that well, like Rashford, someone's playing that well and affecting the game so positively from the left and right flank, the last thing you want to do is then moving into a central position where they're less effective, because that's a detriment to the whole team. Now, yes, you do have players to come in to replace him, and they can effectively replace him, i.e. Garnacho. Obviously, Anthony will be on the right-hand side. Here's hoping that Sancho can come back soon. But if a player's playing well, you don't want to remove them from the position that they're playing well in. And if that's the case, you then need someone that can be rotated with Martial. Now, I know I've just laid out the need for a striker. That's obvious. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. But I think with what maybe Ten Hag's looking for, I think Depay is an option. Is he the option? Is he the long-term option? No. But we're not in a long-term market at the moment. That's the issue. We're not in a long-term market at the moment. We don't have the capabilities to buy long-term players and long-term options and long-term solutions. I said, if this was Football Manager, it's not. It's real life. But if this was Football Manager, when they were going on the transfer market, they'd be going on to filters and they'd be going contract expiry 6 months and then seeing who's available. And we've got slim pickings because of that. So I don't think he's the worst option. And I also think that we need to be really careful on judging a player based on prior performances or based on prior anything, because Erik ten Hag is already kind of changing that stigma, if you will, when it comes to certain players. If we judged Marcus Rashford based off last season, he wouldn't be at the club right now. We'd say, get rid of him. He's rubbish. He's our best player at the moment in terms of positively affecting the game, scoring goals, getting assists. If we judged other players based off, even people like Aaron Wan-Bissaka recently, if we judged him based on prior performances, he definitely would have gone in January. Now, I still say he could go in the summer, but the point being is that Ten Hag can get the best out of players that we can't see. I mean, I think it was Juan from We Talk Ajax said that to us even before I think Erik ten Hag even signed for United. He said there will be some players that he transforms or he gets performances out of that you don't expect or you don't think's possible. Now, I don't know what's possible with Memphis Depay, but I also think that it would be remiss of us to say, it didn't work out for him in the past, it won't work out again. Now, I would question his motivations. I would say that we do have a really good balance in terms of personalities and harmony in the squad right now. What would Memphis Depay do to that? Is he motivated? Is he willing to work off the ball? Or does he want just to come to United because, he's not playing at Barcelona, but he still wants to be at a club with clout and he wants to be on a big paycheck? That would be a concern of mine. And I think that's a valid concern. And maybe you would want then, if you don't want Depay, you would want a Marcus Thuram who's more on the ascendancy and wants to move to a bigger club and wants to win things and wants to progress and wants to be part of a squad that is going places, as opposed to a player that's just, I want to move to my next big club. You do have to question the ambition and the personality there too. So it is an interesting one. I'm going to put a poll in the chat. I think this is a really interesting one. But the thing is, even the poll is somewhat limited because I think there are sort of conditions to this one. It's a case of, okay, it's not as black and white, I don't think, as would you take Memphis Depay back? It's like, would you take Memphis Depay back if there was no other option? If I said to you, we either get nobody in January or we get Memphis Depay, I think the answer changes a little bit. If it's just, would you take Memphis Depay? Or would you take Memphis Depay or Marcus Turram? I think the answer changes. Let's have a look. I might have put the poll in the chat first. It'd be good if I didn't have caps lock. I don't want to shout at the audience in the morning. I'm already doing that enough. Would you take Memphis Depay back at Man United? The question. Here we go. The poll has been posted in the community. Let's get some comments up on the screen as well from some of our members. Callum says, none of the Erik ten Hag signings have come bad so far, so let's trust the manager. And I think that's a key point too. And it's almost become a bit of a cop-out, hasn't it, Callum, at this point, that we debate about someone coming in. We debate about, are they right for United? Oh, do we want their personality? Are they good enough? Their wages, etc. But ultimately, I think already Erik ten Hag has earned the right to say, if Erik ten Hag says, I want him, then we have to go trust the process. And I know we're very reluctant to trust the process because the process has been going on at Manchester United for a really long time. And several managers have said, trust the process, it's a process. And there's been no end product to said process. But I think Erik ten Hag already has earned the right to say that, if Erik ten Hag said, I want Memphis Depay back, we would have to say, look, he knows what he's on about. That would be it. So I think that's the response to that one. What else you guys saying? Oh, we've got a birthday. One of our members, the original member, the OG Starlord, says, happy birthday to me, 37. I'm just an adult kid. Happy birthday, Starlord. Many happy returns. I'm sure the UV community, the chat, will wish you a happy birthday. Many happy returns. As mentioned, Starlord was the OG member. He was the first person, I believe, to join the members club as well. And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is coming out later this year. It promises to be the best one yet. Although Chris Pratt's in a bit too much for me right now. I mean, he's in Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's a lot of animated voices at this point. What is he? He was in the Lego movie. He's in the Mario movie, which, I mean, everything else in that movie looks kind of perfect in terms of casting when it comes to voices. The animation looks great too. Chris Pratt's the voice of Super Mario. I don't know about that one. That's a later poll. VK, one of the members, big supporter of the channel. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Says, Depay is 28. That's an improvement over the last few strikers' age. Basically saying that all the other stopgaps we've purchased at United have been in their mid to late 30s. Depay still has a way to go. There easily could be a 3 or 4 year sort of period you could get out of Memphis Depay. And I think it's just one of those players, again, because he's been around for such a long period of time. Remember when we signed him, he was what, 23, 22, something like that. He was this emerging force in the Netherlands side, and he was signed by Louis van Gaal. And at the time too, because Van Gaal had worked with him in the Netherlands squad, we'd assumed, he knows him really well, it's going to be fantastic, and it just never worked out. And look, maybe it did take for Memphis Depay to go away. Maybe it did take for Memphis Depay to get his ego in check, or you could argue that maybe it's only got bigger. But maybe it did take Memphis Depay to realise that, and sometimes this happens with young players, that signing for United is not making it. That's just the first step. When you sign for a big club, the hard work is cliche, but the hard work starts there. Then you really have to put the time and the effort in and see near enough, not immediate, but fairly quick results, because there is so much expectation. And I know it's difficult on a young player, but you have to deliver, you have to perform. Look at the signings we've made this season so far. The expectation is that you sign for United and it works out fairly quickly. Look at people like Casemiro. They've got way more experience than Depay had when he signed for United way back when, but fairly immediate impact on the pitch. Christian Eriksen, the same. Lisandro Martinez, the same. Even Malacia, to an extent, he's a young player and there's still way to go, but fairly immediately he was putting in decent performances. There's already scrutiny over people like Anthony because, yes, he scored last night, but people are still expecting a little bit more. So again, maybe it took for Depay to go away, to go to Lyon, and then to go to Barcelona, to come back and understand and be able to manage that pressure, that weight of being a Manchester United player. I'm not sure. As far as would I take him, if you said to me, we can only get Memphis Depay this month, it's Memphis Depay or nothing, I'd take him. I would take him. I think that there is still more to get out of him. I think that he would be a really useful option. Manchester United have a better squad and a better bench if Memphis Depay is on it than he's not on it. Last night, if you'd looked at that bench and said, Memphis Depay's on the bench, you could have brought him on at any point for Martial, and the drop-off in quality wouldn't have been that high. Some might even say it might have been improved. I don't know. Memphis Depay, you would think, is probably going to be more consistent in terms of his fitness record than Martial. Who's to say, actually? Think about it, actually. Who's to say that if Memphis Depay came in, he wouldn't play more games than Martial? In terms of availability, that might be a situation where he comes in and Ten Hag's like, I really like Martial, but Depay's more available. That could be a real option too, you know. So I think that I would say watch this space. I'm also really reluctant just to negotiate with Barcelona anyway, because of the Frankie de Jong situation in the summer. And again, we know their financial situation, which you could say, well, that will give us the upper hand, but it's just Barcelona. They just make things difficult. They make things really difficult, really challenging. But I suppose also, if we're going to maybe revisit the Frankie de Jong situation in the summer, maybe it's worth kind of repairing those bridges a little bit, mending those fences with Barca, get the Memphis deal done first, and then already opening the dialogue for FDJ if that's what Ten Hag wants. And it would appear he would probably want to. I think if you asked Erik Ten Hag would you get Frankie de Jong in the summer? He'd say yes, because he really badly wanted him in the first place. And depending on where we finish this season, it might look totally different. If we finish in the top 4, maybe FDJ goes, actually, that Manchester weather, I don't care too much about it. Suddenly, you're in the Champions League, and I might be interested. Here's what the poll's saying as well. Already over 200 votes. Would you take Memphis Depay back at Manchester United? Pretty unanimous, actually. 69% of the vote says yes. 31% says no. Get your votes in, as always, as well. But again, I do think there are kind of caveats to that too. I think if it, and we'll maybe put this poll in just a second when we start talking about Marcus Thuram, but I think that if you then made it a binary choice between Memphis Depay and Marcus Thuram, maybe that answer would be a little bit different, because their profile is a little bit different in terms of maybe a player on the ascendancy, it's early, ascendancy, and a player, not that Memphis Depay's on the decline, because he's still young-ish for a football player. He would say he's in his prime. But in terms of what they want to achieve, maybe that would be part of it too as well. So look, I think it's a really interesting one. We've got nearly 600 people watching, less than 100 likes. You know me with these individual solo streams. We can get the likes up. We can get to 150. We can get to 200. So if you haven't already, be sure to click that like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. Remember, you can join the UB Members Club too. Links in the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat. Plenty of content on the horizon today as well, folks. Don't you worry. For those that are crying out for it, Match Day Reloaded will be here later on today. 2 o'clock it will be dropping. Will be a pre-record, won't be live, but we will have reactions from the likes of Felix, Marcel, and others outside Old Trafford last night. We're also going to have all of the stats, all of the quotes from Erik ten Hag, a few little tweaks as well. We debuted a new studio, a remote studio for that one, on the last episode of Match Day Reloaded, the Bournemouth one, and we have listened to the feedback of the UV community, because we're always listening. We're in this together, folks. So a few tweaks have been put in there, so be sure to join me later on. I really like doing that show. It's one of my favourite shows to do. It's my baby, and it's really developing, which is really exciting as well. And as I mentioned, all of the fan views from last night, all of the reactions are currently up live on the channel. You can even go back and watch the match view in real time with me and KG. What a laugh that was. An absolute riot that was last night, especially with the Roy Keane mustache. We've got, again, we're going to cover that on Match Day Reloaded. That's how you know it was crazy. First super chat of the morning from Jadine says, let me move that up. I'm one of those people that if things don't fit on the screen, it will drive me insane. There you go. Jaden says, Martial will drop off because he won't feel like the main man again. It's ridiculous, but I foresee it coming. Ten Hag will get the best out of him. So Jaden kind of saying, look, Martial needs to be or feel like the guy, otherwise he's not going to succeed and thrive. I would say that if that is the case, and look, you could say there's evidence to support it in terms of Martial's best seasons being, for instance, under Ollie, where he was the striker, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said, you're going to be my striker this season. That's when he had his best return of goals. The problem is given his fitness record, he hasn't earned that right, I don't think. You can't have that kind of personality or mentality of the best way to get the most out of me is that I'm the guy, I'm the only guy, because that's fine if you're going to play every single week, but Martial isn't going to play every single week. What we have seen Erik ten Hag develop and foster in this squad so far this season, particularly in the fullback positions, is when there is a legitimate competition for places, the performance level has risen out of players that were maybe on the decline. Luke Shaw. Turram Malacia comes in. Luke Shaw gets in the best physical condition, probably of his career. He puts in some of the best performances of his career. He gets a real good run of form. He's getting goals. He's getting assists. He's moving around positions as well. Last night, once again, he played left centre-back. On the right-hand side, Diogo Dalot, firmly the number one in the right-back position. He gets injured, does his hamstring at the World Cup. Aaron Wan-Bissaka plays 4 or 5 games in a row, puts in a good bit of form. Those competition for places are that. To be honest, you would even say Casemiro. When Casemiro came in to United, he didn't start for 5 games, something like that, and that's because McTominay was playing well. And I'm not saying that Casemiro's form now is based on Scott McTominay, because that'd be ridiculous to say, but there is a competition, a legitimate competition for places, and we can't not do business based off, well, Tony does a bit better when there isn't a lot of competition around him. Unfortunately, given your fitness record, you've got we need support. And it's a squad game. We're still in those competitions. How long for? We don't know. But we're still in those competitions. We need support. And Erik ten Hag needs to be able to turn to his bench. If Martial is still his starting guy, which I think he would be. But say last night, if you'd have said last night, 70 minutes, Martial's coming off and Memphis is coming on, you'd go, solid. Happy with that. No problem. But it wasn't like that. Instead, we're going, now who's going to play where? Oh, we're going to have to shift people around. Maybe Rashford goes through the middle. Maybe this person goes through the middle. Maybe Alanga comes on, goes through the middle. That's the issue at the moment. But appreciate the super chat as always, Jaden. Zayn Miasi's up early and the mum credit card bang out on the table. It's good when you're winning, Zayn, isn't it? It's fantastic. Says, I think your transfer window will be pony. We are getting Felix, the Ukrainian winger, plus Jesus and Smith Rowe coming back. Your reliance on Rashford like Spurs with Kane will be your downfall. Come on, you Gunners. Zayn Miasi out strong on a Saturday morning. And you love to see it. Because Miasi puts out the big comments. Who knows if it will happen? He says they are getting João Felix. We'll see what happens with João Felix. I don't know if anyone's getting João Felix, to be honest. And we're going to talk about that a bit later on. That loan fee, even Arsenal would say that's a bit too high. The Ukrainian winger, Mudryk, he might even go to Chelsea. Todd Boehly's transfer strategy is let everyone else do the work, do the heavy lifting, and then we'll just come in and pay the same amount or maybe a little bit more. So don't be too sure. Jesus and Smith Rowe coming back, that will be very important for you. And look, I don't think anyone expected the consistency from Arsenal that they've showed this season. But at the same time, let's see what happens at the Emirates in a couple of weeks' time. Who's the only team to beat Arsenal this season? I can't remember. Who was that team? Who was the only one that beat Mikel Arteta and outclassed him? I forget. It'll come to me eventually. I feel like it's clear. You can let me know in the chat. Who was that team? I can't recall. Let's move on. I've spent too long on one topic so far. This is what happens when I'm left with the buttons for myself. Let's talk about Marcus Thuram, and unfortunately, looking unlikely. Now, this comes from German journalist Christian Falk, who was talking to Court Offside, saying that Turram is thought to be leaning towards rejecting a move from Borussia Mönchengladbach in January to go to Newcastle United. It is claimed he would rather join a club with proven European pedigree. However, a move in January is thought to be unlikely unless United stump up the cash. This is what he had to say, quote, Newcastle's interest in Marcus Thuram was serious, that's true. They decided already in this window that they won't go to Newcastle. Everyone has to see what happens with Newcastle. Nobody knows if they'll get the Champions League football. From Thuram's side, they made a plan and decided to stay at Gladbach for the moment. If there's a big offer, it has to come from a very big club. United is one of them. Bayern is one, Inter Milan and PSG. These four clubs are in their head. He won't sign now at Newcastle as he'll have so many options in the summer. But if one of those big four clubs is knocking at the door, then things could progress quickly. So essentially what Christian Falk is saying there, and by the way, Christian Falk has got some things wrong in the past. The best one with Christian Falk is Ralf Rangnick will not be the Manchester United interim manager. Then like 3 hours later, welcome Ralf Rangnick. No, got it wrong. It happens. Like a De Gea mistake. It happens. So basically what he is saying there, though, and look, he's probably got some close ties to that one. It's a deal that is happening in Germany. Marcus Thuram is a French player playing for a German side in Borussia Mönchengladbach. He's got 6 months left on his contract. And essentially what he's saying there is he's not going to go to Newcastle in January. Only club he'd go to is a big club with a big offer. United, Bayern, Inter, PSG. I don't know what he means by big offer, to be honest. I think he's referencing the contract, not necessarily the transfer fee. I think at this stage, with the player, with the level of player, with the quality of player that Marcus Thuram is, when you've got 6 months left on your contract, desperate settings kick in, and the club basically has to make a decision. Do we want to get some money for the player, or do we just accept at this point that we're going to make a loss? We'll wait to the end of the season. He'll go on a free. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. We just have to get to the end of the season. Let's see what we can achieve this season. So I think they mean in terms of a big offer, in terms of a contract, in terms of the wage. I think that it's fairly obvious probably how much it would cost to get Marcus Thuram in January, probably around sort of 10 million, 12 million. It's not a lot. But maybe there might be his agent saying to him, look, you're on a free contract in the summer. You might as well just wait. Wait to the end of the summer. See what happens with all of these clubs. United, unfortunately, back in the day, it would be a situation whereby going to Man United, of course they're going to be in the Champions League. It's not a given thing, especially in recent seasons. So he might be recommended or advised by his agents, his advisors, wait till the end of the season. Plus, if you're a free transfer, if you're a free agent, you're going to have far more options than you would probably have right now. And, there might be an element of desperation from some of the teams that want you in January, which is the case with United. So unless United really put money on the table, is what they're saying, then it probably won't happen. And if that is the case, you would also say, well, I would think Marcus Thuram again, a bit like Memphis Depay, I think is a really good option. And I think it's a viable option for us in January. He has played up front for Borussia Mönchengladbach. He's a younger player. He's a player that is wanting to achieve things, wanting to win things as well, I think is a real positive. I think we're looking at, a player that I think positively affected the French side of the World Cup. Didn't play every game, of course, but when he did come on, he showed pace, he showed tenacity, and again, he can play through the middle, which is crucial too. And he does feel like, with this United side, it does feel like that would be a really good fit. I think last night, particularly, we saw this against Everton, that we still haven't kind of shaken our sort of counter-attacking ways at time. And there is, again, in my opinion, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. For whatever reason, there is a lot of, I think, football snobbery that goes on where it's like, they play on the counter-attack. Oh, counter-attack FC. There's nothing wrong with playing on the counter-attack. And last night, we still had lots of possession. And still last night, there were points in the game where Everton did get people behind the ball. And we had to try and find space and work space. But again, counter-attack playing football is fine. If anything, sometimes it's the best opportunity to make space. Because when you've got a team like Everton at Old Trafford, that if you do take your time on the ball, they will get behind. They will get bodies in behind the ball, and they will play a bit of a low block. Sometimes you've got to play on the counter-attack, move the ball quickly, because that's the only time you're going to get a lot of space. And you do feel like with Marcus Thuram that he's got pace. If you're playing a counter-attacking kind of game, or you're on the counter-attack, he's probably more direct than an Anthony as well. I think Anthony, part of the problem is that he's almost not suited to counter-attacking football. Again, I think that I think he's a viable option, but what Christian Falk, I suppose, is kind of saying there, or suggesting that, is that he might wait it out to the summer. He might want to assess his options. He might want to see which clubs are available. And he might have had, actually, I say might, most likely he's already probably had these sort of informal discussions with maybe these bigger clubs like Bayern Munich, like PSG, maybe even like us, saying, if you wait till the summer, we'll put an offer in. We'll give you a contract. We'll make you a contract offer. And also, from an agent point of view and a player point of view, you'll make more money on a free contract, a free transfer, because we don't have to focus on transfer fees. We can put that money into your wages. We can put that money into your agent fees. We can put that money into your loyalty bonus. So it might be more beneficial for him there. And it might be a case of, do you want to move to this club now, or do you want to wait and see your options for the summer? And it might be the latter. That might be the advice that he's getting. Zane, once again with the super chat, says, I'll click the wrong one. Herb says there's only one United, which is accurate. Yes, there is only one United. Move that up from Zane. Says, we outplayed you for the rest of the match at Old Trafford. Ollie beat Pep and Klopp. Meaningless. Well, I would say 3 points is not meaningless, and we'll have to wait and see, Zane. That's what I think is funny with all that kind of stuff, is with opposition fans, if you beat them, there's always an asterisk over the top. There's always, yeah, but we play better than you. But you didn't win. What does the record say, Zane? When it comes to, when, for instance, Newcastle bottled the league in the 90s with Kevin Keegan and Manchester United, I would love it if they beat them. Did the Newcastle fans, they'd be like, yeah, but we were top of the league by, was it 12 points at one point? No. Man United won the league. The record book says that United won the league. In the same way the record book says Man United won that game at Old Trafford, Zane. And it doesn't matter for you. You're top of the league, man. Enjoy it while it lasts. It might not last that long. We'll see what happens, And I didn't say that Arteta was a bad manager. I said on that day, factually accurate, not only did we win, but Erik ten Hag outdid Mikel Arteta. You can dominate the ball and you can have possession, but we had way more chances that day. We scored 3 goals. Arsenal scored 1 goal. The other one was ruled out for VAR. What other big chances did you have? Erik ten Hag outdid old Arteta that day. VK here says, we will tail another 3 points versus Arsenal and let their fans gloat. They were the better side for 89 minutes. Arsenal could do a Kevin Keegan. I just said Kevin Keegan. VK. Oh, look at us on the same wavelength. Keegan Newcastle, who blew a 12-point lead. Yes. And as some of the members say here, I'd prefer, Callum says, I prefer 3 points over we played better. Absolutely. Shafi says, big up Owen. And Starlord says, Arsenal will beat Arsenal come the match. I'm really excited for that match at the Emirates, certainly. I think it's going to be a really interesting one. And I think that Flex is quite nervous. He's going, going to Arsenal. And look, the atmosphere at the Emirates has been really good recently. I mean, I didn't actually see, obviously, the Arsenal-Newcastle game in its entirety because the United game was on at the time. We were doing Man United-Bournemouth, but I had the screen to my left, we had it on because it was on Sky Sports. And look, the atmosphere's been great. And look, Arsenal, I'm not one of those fans that will talk unnecessary shit about other teams. I think it's ridiculous. I think as an opposition fan, you're allowed to praise, as a fan, you're allowed to praise opposition players. You can say they played well. I remember I did when City were playing Liverpool the other day, that first game back for them, that Carabao Cup game, and Haaland scored after was it 3 minutes or something? I said, this guy's an animal. He's a machine. And in my opinion, he is up there for one of the best players in the world. And people, despite not touching the ball or him being a different player, I think he's a goal scorer. I think, look at someone like Ruud van Nistelrooy. That's what he does. And then the response to that was, why are you praising a Man City player? Because you're allowed to. You're allowed to say someone's good. I don't support him. I don't think he's, I wouldn't support him over a United player, but I'm allowed to say he's good because he is. Factual. We've got over 700 people watching, less than 150 likes. Let's get up to 200, 250, maybe even 300. Anything's possible as well. And let's see the poll in the chat as well here. I did say about 20 minutes ago, would you take Memphis Depay back at Man United? 62% of you said yes, and 38% of you said no. So I want to put in, who would you take, Depay or Turram? Let me put this in just quickly. Start a poll. Who would you prefer, be good if I could spell, prefer United to sign? Would it be Depay? And you can let me know in the chat as well, of course. Get your comments up on the screen. Depay or Turram? The question has been asked. A couple of super chats here from Chris and Simran says, why was Faz on United stand yesterday? I think Faz is just doing his own thing, man. I think that's just it. So all respect to him. Big up Faz, as always. But yeah, nothing too sinister or anything like that. I don't really have a good answer to give you on that one. But yeah, I think Faz is doing his own thing. So big up Faz, as always. Asker says, no to the Depay, the Dutch Jesse Lingard. Very harsh, very harsh. But then Joe says here, Haaland, Kane, Nunes, Jesus, Tony, Mitrovic, Wilson, Alvarez, Zaha, Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin are all better than Memphis, naming them all. Whoa. That was a lot of names there. And let's see what the poll's saying already. Already nearly 100 votes, saying they take Turram over Depay. There you go. Look at that. But as I mentioned, nearly 800 people watching. We can get to 200 likes, 250. Anything's possible here. Next story, we're going to talk a little bit about João Felix. I know. João Felix, yes. The update is, once again, this deal has certainly stalled. And to be honest, I don't think United are the only team, in which this is stalled. It says here that Manchester United are struggling to agree a loan fee for João Felix, according to Sky Sports. Felix is available for a transfer after failing to impress. I mean, that's probably harsh. I think he's falling out with Diego Simeone. The likes of Manchester United and Arsenal are interested in signing him on loan until the end of the season, yet it's believed the Spanish Giants want £13 million for the privilege, plus his full wages. Again, we're looking at a total package of around 20 million quid to sign a player for 6 months with no option to buy or obligation to buy. Now, that's certainly a big problem for United, as it's thought Ten Hag's side are reluctant to pay more than 3.5 million for his temporary services. That's a big lot. That's a big lot. That's a bit of a difference, isn't it? That's, again, 13 million they want. We're willing to pay about 3. So there's a difference in 10 million there. So they've stalled. And again, I don't think United are alone in that one too. I think that even people like Arsenal, I would think, unless Arsenal get really, really desperate towards the end of the window, and they might, especially in that title race, especially in that pursuit for that top spot, and they found themselves, I would think, in a title race earlier on in their development. They had probably in their plan, and then they anticipated. And maybe when it comes to the end of the window, they think, screw it, we're just going to do it. We're going to roll the dice. We're going to take a risk. We're going to take a gamble. We'll pay the money for João Felix. We'll take him on a 6-month loan. He can contribute and help us to the end of the season and maybe win a title. But even they, I think, would say 20 million total package for a player for 6 months with no guarantee we're even going to keep him past the end of the season. That's just bad business. And then from a United point of view, especially when we don't have the money, we don't have the money. So I don't think João Felix is going to happen again as time goes on. I think that. I think unless that loan fee comes down, and unless it becomes a situation whereby George Mendes and João Felix really hammer home that point, really push the situation where it's like, we really want to leave and they force their way out, you go on strike or anything like that. I don't know. But again, I don't see that. I mean, we're talking about situations here where it's Memphis Depay or Marcus Thuram for possibly 5 to 10 million on a permanent deal, and they could be at the club 2-3 years, maybe even a bit longer than that, and positively contribute 20 million quid, basically what we're saying in terms of loan fee plus wages for 6 months. When we don't have the money anyway. I mean, it'd be ludicrous if we did have the money. If this was a regular Manchester United window, we don't really do business in January, but if money wasn't an issue, you could almost see United doing it, and we'd be ridiculed for it. Because let's make no mistake here. If we had the money and we signed João Felix, and they said, okay, you've signed João Felix on loan, everyone would go, oh, it's great. We got João Felix in. They go, oh, how much is the total package? They go, 20 million. They go, 20 million? 20 million. You might as well have bought. You could buy probably both Depay and Marcus Turram in January for that money. Let's be honest. We're talking about about 5-10 million each. So you could easily get them both for that amount. Not that you would, but it's too much. And I think this might become a game of chicken. I think as time goes on, I think the loan fee might reduce. But Atletico have also said, we're comfortable if he stays. If he stays, we'll continue to try and play him. We'll continue to try and use him. It's a really interesting situation again because it's a guy that is really young still. He's 23. And João Felix wanted to leave initially permanently in January, but that was already, everyone went, that's clearly not feasible because look, this is a player that's that's a young player. We signed him for what? How much did they sign him for? It was like 100 million, 100 plus million. So he's improved and he's gained value since then. So minimum Atletico would want to break even on that 100 plus million. So if they were to sell him, and they might sell him in the summer, and that might be a possibility in the summer, he might go in the summer, but they would want minimum to break even on that. So first of all, United aren't even involved in that conversation either, let alone for one for 20 million. So I think the Felix thing, there'll be more stories about it. I'm sure that George Mendes will put more stuff out there to the press, to the media, because that's kind of, I think, his methodology. I think that's kind of what he does. Certainly, we saw that with the Ronaldo situation. Although he's not the agent for Ronaldo anymore. I saw that they've, I saw they've gone separate ways. I don't know if that's accurate. I did see a big thing the other day saying that Mendes and CR7 had gone different ways because of the decision to take that Ronaldo interview with Piers Morgan. I don't know if that's accurate. You can let me know in the chat. Nevertheless, his main focus at the moment is seemingly to get Felix this move, and it would probably be, to be honest, it's not upon George Mendes at the moment to negotiate with United or negotiate with Arsenal, because I think both clubs have really said we're just not going to pay that money. It's upon George Mendes now to negotiate with Atletico, going, can we find out some other way? Can we get that loan fee down? Can we do something? What if we move some things around? What if I tell you I can get in another player to replace him? Would you then be happy? I think. By all accounts, Atletico's issue is they want full coverage from an FFP perspective. They spent a lot of money, and again, I think that money was spread out over several years, and again, his contract, etc. So I think they want to be not only have his wages covered, but they want to be reimbursed because they might still even be paying off other transfer fees at the moment. So I think that's part of it too. So there you go when it comes to João Felix. We've got over 800 people watching, less than 200 likes. We're about 25 likes away. So if you haven't already, click that like button as well. Appearing offline, here you go, says Giroud for 6 months for me. Saying they would want Olivier Giroud on 6 months. I think that one, I'm really hesitant with Olivier Giroud. Not that I don't think he's a good player. I think he's really good. And I think the World Cup showed he's still got gas left in the tank. But he's got 6 months left on his deal at AC Milan. And my feeling is that might just be I want to stay at AC Milan. I'm going to throw my name out there to see if I can get a new contract. And at that age, they do go year to year. So I feel like Olivier Giroud will stay at AC Milan. I don't think he'll go anywhere in January. And they'll still use him and need him, I think. So I don't think that's the right move. Again, I think the right move, if we even do make a move in January, let's be honest, and I still say, I just don't know if I see it. I just don't know if I see us making that move for a player. I don't know if it's feasible. Unless someone becomes available, even the Memphis Depay and Marcus Thuram, I just think that the club might be really reluctant, and they might just say, "We'll wait until the summer once again," or "We'll just wait until the ownership situation is sorted," And the last thing you also want to do is give the club an excuse not to spend. And the excuse not to spend at the moment is actually the performances on the pitch. They'll be like, actually, no, we're fine. We're fine. By all accounts, it's Erik ten Hag. He's the one that's really pushing behind the scenes, pushing for a striker, pushing for reinforcements, even though he knows it's unlikely that we'll get him. It will most likely be a loan or a real cut price transfer. But Mario Jackson here says, we need to make a move. Our squad is too thin to compete for top four. I mean, Erik ten Hag has been rotating, hasn't he, in recent games? He made 4 changes against Bournemouth. I think he made 4 changes last night. I'm expecting possibly even more against Charlton in the Carabao Cup in the quarterfinals on Tuesday. I would expect significant rotation. I don't want to get too much into a preview here, but I would expect Maguire to start. I would expect Lindelof to start. I would expect Wan-Bissaka to start. Probably Malacia. You probably think... I think Bruno's suspended for that game, so he's not going to play. But midfield, you'd probably say... Maybe it might be McTominay and Fred. It depends how much he thinks he needs to rotate in that game. They should be comfortable beating Charlton, but you never know. He might want to maintain momentum as well. But the key focus already becomes onto the City game, doesn't it? And I understand the point that was just made there that... considering the right way of looking at it would be that because we're playing well at the moment, because we're actually looking up as opposed to looking down, now would be the time to recruit because we can really push on this season. But we find ourselves in the financial situation that we find ourselves. We find ourselves in the ownership situation that we find ourselves. Even though long term that will be a good thing, and it might just mean that it's not going to happen in January. But it's still early on in the window. There's still, 24 days left. So there's still plenty of time for us to get players in, or a player in. I say players, a player in. I don't think we're going to be getting multiple or anything like that. I think that's unlikely. Finally, not transfer related, but of course, Manchester United are through to the 4th round of the FA Cup. A 3-1 victory over Everton last night. As I mentioned, there'll be a full match day reloaded coming up later today, 2 p.m. that will drop. I'll be going through all of the quotes from the manager, the players, getting some reaction from Felix, Marcel, player ratings, KG, you name it. It's going to be all covered on Matchday Reloaded later today, so be sure to check that out on the channel. But just a bit of a reaction from last night too. Again, I found it really interesting that it's because this has happened to me a couple of times now actually. That at halftime it's 1-1. And did we play particularly well in the first half? No. Overall in the game, did we play particularly well? No, it was scrappy, and it's not our best performance. But I was really taken aback, I must say, by the reaction at half-time that, the sky was falling. The sky was falling. It was terrible. This player's rubbish. That player's rubbish. What's going on here? This isn't good enough. This is terrible. What are we doing? Everton are crap and we're not beating them. I hit my microphone. All that kind of stuff. And I was taken aback by it because we've seen, even in recent weeks, that you can't go into every half-time winning. There are going to be poor performances in a half. There are going to be moments where you don't get the goals you need in a half. But what actually matters in totality is the result. What matters is at the end of the game. And now, on the other side of it, that we won that game, we're through to the next round of the FA Cup. Was it 7 straight victories at home? I think it is something like that. That was our first goal conceded at Old Trafford, and it's a heck of a mistake from De Gea. First goal conceded in open play at Old Trafford since Arsenal. We win again. We haven't lost. We haven't dropped any points or lost a game or drawn a game since we returned from the World Cup. And it's just like I think we just need to calm down a little bit. I think we just need to calm down a little bit at halftime and wait for the game to play out. If we'd have gone out last night, absolutely hammer the team and hammer the players and say, that's not good enough, Everton are rubbish, we shouldn't be going out at home. But we didn't. We went through, and we went through fairly comfortably in the end, 3-1. I mean, it's a bit of a false scoreline because we score late on with the penalty. But at the same time, Believe in the manager, believe in the players. I know it's difficult based on what happened last season. I know that some players haven't earned that right to believe in them, or haven't earned that right to maybe even play for United. I don't know. But I was taken aback by just the sheer, anger at half time. And it happened again at Wolves when it was 0-0, where it was like, terrible, we've missed chances. Yeah, we have missed chances, but more chances will come. We need to believe in this team that more chances will be created, as was the case last night. I mean, the second half started. That Iwobi injury happened, so we lost like 3 or 4 minutes. But it was only a couple minutes after that Marcus Rashford makes the own goal from Connor Cody, and then we're already 2-1 back up again. And it's just like, I think we need to relax a little bit from the halftime outrage in these performances, and believe that if we don't play well in the first half, Erik ten Hag will know that we haven't played well in the first half too, and he'll hammer the players home. He didn't look particularly happy at points last night. He knows that there are gears to go up and levels to go up. My concern would be that at halftime, if we played like that and I thought that we couldn't get any better than that, and we didn't have any gears to go up in, that would be my concern. And we saw that under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but we go at halftime 0-0 and you go, I don't see us getting any better than that. I think the difference now between then and now is that even if you do put in a performance like that, one, we were very unfortunate to go in level because it's a mistake from the goalkeeper. But two, I know that there's levels we can go up there. I know we can play better than that. I know that we can improve that, and I know that we will improve, and I know we will make chances because we've got quality on the pitch, we've got quality in the dugout in terms of the manager. So again, I know that some people will say, Owen, toxic positivity, or Owen, you're being blind. But recent results and form suggest that there is reason to believe when you go in at halftime 1-1 that we can win the game at home to Everton. Like, I think we just need to wait with those things. And that's not to say, and because I've seen this too, your positivity will be beaten out of you when you lose against City and Arsenal. And look, maybe that will be the case. Maybe that will happen. But I've even said with that, if we don't, say we lose against City and Arsenal back-to-back, I think there's a little bit of an expectation from sort of the wider footballing community that might happen. City are second, Arsenal are first, and if it doesn't happen again, it's not the end of the world. Those games are out of the way. Our form, since those first 2 games of the season, which feel like a lifetime ago, we've got the second most points in the Premier League at this point. We'd have played the top 2 twice by the end of January, and then we can go on another run towards the end of the season. I think that, as I keep saying, United are good. I think United are good. United are all right. We're playing good football. We've got a good manager. We've got a decent squad. We need more players. We need more strength and depth. If we're going to get that, I'm not sure. There has been, I just see Tank says in the chat there, and I have seen that on social media. I'm not sure it's been, real, confirmed outlets or anything like that. But there have been rumours about Abubakar, possibly alone or possibly leaving. Al Nassr, I think that's almost somewhat hilarious. Not that he's not a good player. I mean, he used to play for Porto, and he's still only 30 as well. I think people think he's older, but he's not. He's only 30 or 31. But it just would be funny that we let go Ronaldo, he goes to Al Nassr, and then we get in Abubakar on loan from Al Nassr, or we buy. I'm not fancying a buy for Abubakar. But I mean, look, you look at Turram, was he 26, 27? Depay, 28, I think he is. There is still a little bit of longevity in those stopgaps. So, as far as doing business in January, like I said, I just don't know. I don't know. But look, we'll have to wait and see. When it comes to, like I said, United last night, we're through to the next round of the FA Cup. As Erik ten Hag says, you can't win the tournament. You can't win trophies at this point of the year, but you can put yourselves in a better position to do so. You can certainly lose trophies at this point of the year if you get knocked out of the competition. So the next focus turns on to Charlton at home. And we're still in 4 competitions, and we're in a good position for 4 competitions. I mean, the FA Cup, again, still plenty of time to go. But the Carabao Cup, look, big teams have gone out of it. We've got a good draw against Charlton on Tuesday. Who's left in it? Is it Man City and Newcastle? I think it is. So we'll see. Fassi says, you guys hate Depay because he is handsome and talented. I think Fassi might be a Memphis fan. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. I think he might be a Memphis fan. Just looking at the poll in the chat as well. It's been up for just over 15 minutes. Over 350 votes. I asked, who would you prefer United to sign? Memphis Depay or Marcus Thuram? And interestingly, 62% of you say Marcus Turram would be the option you would go for. Now, just out of curiosity, you can let me know just before we wrap things up here. Is that based off... What factors is that based off? If you voted for Marcus Thuram, what factors is that based off? Is that based off of age? Is that based off of... Because the age difference actually isn't that much. Is it based off history, i.e. you just don't want Memphis to come back? Is that based off where they're coming from? You want a player that is ambitious and wants to improve as opposed to a player that, you know, could just be wanting to stay at big clubs? What is it based upon? Is it based on age, history? You let me know in the chat as well. We've got over 800 people watching. We've just got a few minutes left, so before we wrap things up, be sure to get to 250 likes if you can. That's 35 likes away. I'm like Rashford, pointing to the head, not because I'm celebrating, because of the maths. Tank says history. E says it's based off shiny new toys, saying it's just because we've got a shiny new toys issue as Manchester United fans. Samuel says it's the age. Michael just says no to pie. Dylan says Turram is a dead baller. Vegeta, one of our members, says, I haven't watched Turram, so I can't vote for him. Memphis, I've watched recently, so I know what I'm getting. So basically just saying, well, I'm just more familiarity, which I think is fair. I think that sometimes we as football fans hear a name and we go, we definitely got to get this name. You go, how often have you watched him? Never. Never. Shavden says, want something new. Zane says, I think both are good, but Depay played in the Premier League and he's better in my opinion. Deo says, based on Memphis' past, he offered nothing. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, Steffi Jenks, big up the mods, as always. Keeping the chat friendly and safe. Says, same Vegeta. I haven't watched them lately, so I'm not voting, which I think is fair as well. Peering Offline says, Depay struggled. Why buy him again? I mean, I suppose you could argue maybe has he improved? Has he developed? Has he matured? That could be a situation. And been fly since 85. I hope you have. Says, based on history, if Depay hadn't been at United before, the opinion might swing. So maybe it is just because of that. Maybe it's because of, you know, based on the history, the return. And we have recently been bitten, shall we say, with players returning to Manchester United. Returning to Old Trafford, they say you should and never can truly go back. So, maybe that's part of it too. And Vegeta also says, as the president of Memphis FC, he has improved a lot. So, we'll have to wait and see. But if you are watching after the fact, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Would you take Memphis Depay back? What are your thoughts on Marcus Turram? Felix, is anyone going to sign him on loan in January? Is that loan fee just too high? And also let us know your thoughts on United's victory over Everton last night. As I mentioned, plenty of content on the horizon today. Matchday Reload will be coming later on today. We'll be breaking down United's 3-1 victory over Everton at Old Trafford in the FA Cup third round. Of course, all of the fan views are still live on the channel, plus the player rating. So plenty of UV coverage for you today and from yesterday as well. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Have a good one. Peace.